Hello, students. Let us continue with the chapter Bina Kutir. Okay, today I'm going to start from the last part of page number 54 of your textbook Harmony. Okay, so in our last class, students, in the last lecture, we got to know that the narrator who was in search of a rented house, he had come across an Assam type house in an area in Guwahati, and he was very attracted by that house and he wanted to take it on rent, but he didn't know much about that house. So in order to gather information, he went to a nearby stationery shop where he had two bottles of Coca-Cola, and from the salesman there he gathered some pieces of information, and he got to know that the house probably belonged to one of the teachers of Bishnuram High School. And he also got to know that that person, the teacher, the name of whom the shopkeeper doesn't clearly remember, the salesman of the shop, but still he got the information that the owner had been a teacher of Sanskrit. Okay, and he had got an award also, and he had and way back then, many years back, there was this. It was written on the gate. There used to be a signature on the gate, Sanjeevan Samaj. Okay, which was no longer to be seen at present, and so that's why the narrator had thought of a name of that house, and that was Bina Kutir. Okay, let us see what happens. Then, who's it now? There are two boys older than us. They were much older to us than itself. One was like his father, perhaps, occupied with studies, a professor somewhere. So the narrator was asking the salesman of the shop, stationery shop, that if the owner had met his death, then uh, who is the owner now? Who lives in the, who is the owner of that house? Then the shopkeeper, the salesman gave the information that there were two boys, no, two sons of that Budhar Goswami probably, and those two sons were much older than the salesman. At that time, in fact, they were older. And between the two sons, one was much like his father, always occupied with his studies, and he worked as a professor somewhere. A dhoti clad professor of those days saw him walking around on the lawn, deep in thought sometimes. A dhoti clad professor of those days saw him walking around on the lawn, deep in thought sometimes. So the salesman gave the information that he used to wear dhoti. Dhoti clad means he used to wear dhoti, and one could see him walking on the lawn means the grassy frontage that was to be there before the Bina Kutir. Okay, he was seen walking in the lawn. The younger one, he was studying to be a doctor in Dibrugarh or something like that. One of our classmates brought in such news. He used to live at the bend of this road, but he isn't here now. And regarding the second son, the salesman gave the information that the second son was pursuing his medical studies in medical sciences in Dibrugarh. And that information, okay, that elder son was a professor, the second son was pursuing his career in medical sciences. That information was given to the salesman by one of his classmates, okay, who used to live at the bend of this road, means the turning of the road, that particular road where there was Bina Kutir. But he isn't here now. We didn't see the younger one, left home in a huff after some quarrel. So we heard, anyway, who cares about people and where they come and go? So another a bit of information that was given to the narrator was that the younger son was not to be seen, and there was a rumor, or everyone had the news was spread like that he had some quarrel with his father and he had left his home. Okay, and in a huff means in a hurry, in anger, he had left his house, But then the salesman said that who cares about people and where they come and go? No one is bothered about others. No, everyone is busy with their own personal lives. So they were not concerned who lived there, who did not live, where they had come from, where they had gone, because there's so much to do in one's own life that one do not have spare time to think about the lives of other people. Taking another sip and nonchalantly, I asked the girl means the narrator was telling, he was see that second bottle of Coca-Cola was not yet over. He had not yet completed drinking that second bottle of Coca-Cola, and he was telling, what about a girl? Okay, girl means, is there any girl? Okay, there were two sons. Was there any girl among the siblings? No, I mean only once or twice did we see the presence of a girl, and of course, no elderly lady was to be seen. Please underline that, and you please underline the previous part also. There were two boys, one professor, one doctor. This information is important. And then the salesman said that no, I mean only once or twice did we sense the presence of a girl. They had never, most of the time, they didn't sense the presence of a girl, that there was any girl living there. Only, of course, no elderly lady was to be seen, and not a means not a young girl and not even an elderly lady was to be seen in Bina Kutir. A horse driven carriage with film posters adorning it, accompanied by a band party, passed by. After the advent of the rickshaw, there is no band party to be seen, just loudspeakers nowadays. And girl did come running to the veranda to watch it. Slim, she was good looking. Seeing us looking her away, she went back. Sometimes a Ford car was seen in the grassy frontage. It was driven by quite a robust man. He had a thing for the girl. They did get married afterward, we were told. Okay, so the salesman, whatever information he had regarding Bina Kutir, he kept on passing it to the our narrator, and he said that a horse-driven carriage with film posters adorning it, accompanied by a band party, passed by. After the advent of the rickshaw, there is no band party to be seen, just loudspeakers now. See, then that information was given that there were a horse-driven carriage, a carriage which is run by horse, and it was adorned with film posters, accompanied by a band party. The horse first, the carriage was going, and after that, a band party was going. After the advent of the rickshaw, there is no band party to be seen, just loudspeakers nowadays. Okay, nowadays there are loudspeakers, but at that time it was not like that. And girl did come running to the veranda to watch it, and the girl did come to watch what it was. The girl of which place? The girl of Bina Kutir came to see what was coming. Means in out just outside her house, the horse-driven carriage, the band party making a lot of noise. So the girl was curious to know what was it, and she came running. Slim, she was good looking, and then people got to see her. She was slim, she was good looking. Seeing us looking her way, she went back, and when she saw that people were looking at her, she again went inside. Sometimes a Ford car was seen in the grassy frontage. It was driven by quite a robust man. He had a thing for the girl. And sometimes a Ford car, Ford, is a company of a car. A Ford car used to be seen in the grassy frontage of Bina Kutir. And that car was driven by a robust, means a very healthy man. And it seemed as if the girl had something with that person. Okay, probably kind of affair with that person. They did get married afterwards, we were told. Means the salesman is telling that afterwards we were told later that the girl of Minakuti got married to that particular person who used to drive that Ford car. An in-house son-in-law, a ghar jawai, that term in Assamese is very common, ghar jawai, and in English it is said in-house son-in-law, and he became an in-house son-in-law. He became a ghar jawai. Our classes continued in Vishnuram for only about 6 months. So once it came to an end, our movement here too was almost nil. No, if there had been any other girl, he smilingly added, we would have surely noticed her. Saying so, he suddenly changed track. Such a valuable property in such an area. So all this information is given to the narrator by the salesman. And when did he come to know about all these things? During those days, way back when the salesman was studying in a high school, okay, and that in that school, Bishnuram High School, only for 6 months. That period of 6 months when their classes were shifted to Bishnuram High School, and he got to come to this residential area, that locality, that he gathered the information. Okay, they had seen a girl, got to know about that particular house who lived there, about the two sons, and about the daughter. And they had once seen the daughter coming out, and there was a band party coming, and they all were looking at the daughter. Probably the salesman and his friend looking at the girl, and she went inside, and later they got to know that she got married to a man driving a Ford car, who often used to be is a frequent visitor to their house, and he became the in-house son-in-law. Okay, and then the salesman said that I don't think there was any other girl, probably only one daughter. If there had been another daughter, we would have surely seen her, because for 6 months they were regularly coming to that place. Okay, so from here we can come to the conclusion that the house, Bhudhar Goswami or Bhudhar Sharma, whoever it was, the name was not clearly remembered by the salesman. He had three children, two sons and one daughter. One son was a professor, one was a doctor, and the daughter was a pretty girl, and she married to a man who became a in-house son-in-law. After that, the salesman said that after our classes came to an end, 6 months, then we did not come to that place. Okay, and then he suddenly uh, changed the track, means suddenly changed the topic of discussion, and he said that such a valuable property in such an area, wonder why it is being allowed to ruin. Then he was thinking that he was why they were allowing the property, that property of Bina Kutir, such a valuable property in such a valuable area. It would have been worth a lot of rupees, but no one was taking care, leaving it just in an abandoned manner. So that occurred to the salesman's mind, that why they were letting it go on ruin. Who knows, maybe the Ford car owning son in law is the owner of it all now. I mean, after all, it isn't his own home. If it had been in the hands of those whose home it was, would they have allowed it to rot like this? A little improvement would fetch at least 800 a month in this locality. Okay, yeah, that comment was given that probably the son-in-law was the owner of everything, and as it was not his own property directly, he didn't give any importance to it. He didn't look after it properly. If the property had belonged to, if the rightful owner were the two sons, they would have given much interest to that property. They would have renovated the house, and they could have fetched at least 800 rupees a month from that house. But now the house was in a dilapidated condition. It was in a form of ruin, and the salesman thought that probably it's because the son-in-law was the rightful owner, and he was not giving much importance. I see. The shop had people now. Two Punjabi men sought Coca-Colas. A young boy asked for a toothpaste, and a couple inquired about the monthly shipment of Glaxo. Please underline, the shop had people now. So far, the narrator was the only customer in that shop, but by this time, other people had come. Two Punjabi men. What did they ask for? They asked for Coca-Colas. Next, a young boy came, and he inquired for a toothpaste. And then a couple came, and they inquired about the monthly shipment of Glaxo. Okay, Glaxo, monthly shipment, monthly, they used to send, or they used to get the thing, Glaxo. Okay, settling at a corner, I sipped on, my nose conscious of the distinct Coca-Cola smell. See, so when other people came to that place, okay, other people came to the shop, the conversation came to a kind of halt, because our salesman had to cater to the needs of the other customers also. Okay, so he what did it? I sipped on. He kept on sipping his second bottle of Coca-Cola. Our narrator, my nose conscious of the distinct Coca-Cola smell. In the multi-product assemblies of the small shop, and with the tube light alight enlightening the place. I felt an inwardness here, as if it was familiar corner in a cafe. What he's telling here, settling, he settled down at a corner. He sipped his Coca-Cola, the narrator. His nose was conscious of the distinct Coca-Cola smell. Okay, his nose was very conscious because he was drinking Coca-Cola. More people were taking Coca-Cola. The shop had a lot of Coca-Cola bottles, and he was conscious of the distinct smell of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has a distinct smell of its own. In the multi-product assemblance of the small shop, the shop was small and it had a variety of products to be sold. Okay, that is called multi-product. Many products were sold there. For example, product like Glaxo, product like toothpaste, essential products. And with the tube light enlightening the place, there was a tube light in that shop. Enlightening means the little shop was illuminated by the tube light. I felt an inwardness here, as if it was a familiar corner in a cafe. He felt very comfortable there. He felt as if it was a familiar corner in a cafe. He had known this place before. In the remaining red dregs of the bottle, in the remaining red dregs of the bottle, I felt I saw an L-shaped, a some type house being reflected. Bina Kutir. A blanket of Bina flowers spread across the grassy bed. In front of the veranda, a girl bent down was sweeping it, a chadar tightly spun across her waist. See, students, a very important juncture we have come to in the story. Here, as I had told you in my first lecture, that Bina Kutir is a combination of reality and imagination, juxtaposition of reality and imagination. So far, the story is based on the reality. Now, the part of imagination starts. All of you, please mark that. When the narrator was looking at the bottle of Coca Cola, the last dregs means the remaining red dregs means leftover. A small amount of Coca Cola was left in the bottle. He felt that is how his imagination gave way. The bottle of Coca Cola was important in order to giving flight to his imagination. Looking at the bottle of Coca-Cola, he imagined, okay, that he felt as if he saw an L-shaped Assam type house being reflected in that bottle of Coca-Cola. It's not real, okay? He imagined. Why he could do that? Because he was no longer in a conversation with the salesman. He was busy catering to the other customers, okay? L-type Assam type, L-shaped Assam type house being reflected. Bina Kutir. A blanket of Bina flowers spread across the grassy bed in front of the veranda. That is his imagination. He in his imagination saw a blanket of Bina flowers, a lot of Bina flowers spreading across the grassy bed in front of the veranda. There was a grassy frontage, there was a grassy bed, and there were Bina flowers everywhere. That was his imagination. A girl bent down. Then in his imagination, he saw a girl bending down, was sweeping it. Okay, means from that pina plant, which was a climber, the flowers had fallen down in his imagination. There, it was flowering. Flowers had fallen down in front of the veranda on the grass, and she wanted to clear it off, and she was sweeping it. A chadar tightly spun across her, and she was wearing Mikhela chadar, the traditional dress of Assamese, and she had tightly spun her chadar across her waist. And the sound of a motor horn, and at the time there was the sound of a motor car honking, and it was a white Ford car making its way in. And what car it was? A Ford car, color white, coming in. And hurriedly the girl stopped sweeping and collected herself, ensuring that the chadar was in place. She ran her hand through her hair with her stunned eyes and looked at the car. Okay, so immediately when she heard the honking of the car, she stopped sweeping, collected herself, means ensuring then putting the chadar properly, and again she ran her head through her hair like this, and ensuring that she looked okay. With her stunned eyes, means her eyes were stunned, surprised, looked at the car, while from the glass two hairy hands at the wheel, a broad-shouldered man, the girl's face unclear, but it was clear that she was indeed young, attentive and excited in anticipation of something. The scene fit quite well. The veranda door stood open. A girl with her back to the door was dusting the round table and the books that lay there. And above the table was a large portrait. Okay. Then what happened? While from the glass, two hairy hands at the wheel. Two hairy hands at the wheel mean a steering wheel of the car. Two hands were to be seen. A broad-shouldered man was driving the car. Broad-shouldered, shoulders were broad, and the girl's face unclear. The face of the girl was unclear, but it was clear that she was indeed young. But one can make out that the girl was young, attentive, and excited, and she was very excited in anticipation of something, means something was going to happen, and that made her very excited, okay, about what was going to happen. That prospect made her very excited. The scene fit quite well. The veranda door stood open, and the veranda door was open. A girl with her back to the door was dusting, and another girl could be seen. In his imagination, the narrator saw another girl, and that girl was inside the house. There was the girl, and she was dusting the round table and the books that were lying on the round table. Okay, above the table was a large portrait, and there was a big portrait, means the picture of a person, a garland of dried flowers, and on the portrait there was a garland, okay, of what? Flowers, not fresh flowers, dried flowers. White mustache, whitened hair at the sides of an otherwise bald head with rounded bifocal spectacles, quite a stern look. Bhudhar Goswami or Sharma. Who else would it be? And above it on the wall, there was a citation all framed. Okay, so this you underline what was to be seen inside the house. The door was open, so the narrator could see the inside of the house, and just inside the room there was a table. A helper, probably she was dusting the table, and there were books piled up, and there was a big portrait, and he could assume that that portrait must belong to the demised owner of the house, Budhar Goswami. There was a dried flower garland on the portrait, and his head was bald, but there was white mustache. Okay, and above it on the wall there was a citation all frame. Citation means words written, frame citation, and seated on an old wooden chair, a dhoti clad man was slowly talking about something. And inside the room, there was an old wooden chair. A man was sitting there. What was the man wearing? A dhoti clad. He was wearing a dhoti, and he was slowly talking about something. He too was bespectacled. Bespectacle means he was also wearing a spectacle like me, but the frame was rectangular. But what kind of frame did it have? Rectangle shaped frame it had, with one of the feet free and the other with the shoe on. The open foot fingers in movement, and that's the only sign of his playfulness. The rest of him serene, his face, his voice clear but soft, and his demeanor. See, such a, you may say, minute observation, such beautiful character sketches, and that credit goes to the author, okay? But the narrator, in his imagination, he could see that man seated, and in one foot he was wearing the shoe, and the other shoe was not there, and the foot where there was no shoe, his fingers seemed to be playing. Okay, foot fingers were in movement. That is the only sign of playfulness. Moving his fingers showed that that was only where he seemed to be playful. His fingers seemed to be playful. Otherwise, he was a stern looking person, grave, stern. His voice was soft but very clear, clearly could be heard. Okay, his face had a serene look on it, and his demeanor, okay, his personality, everything seemed to be very grave and I must say very stern. Surely he was the professor's son, and his name, the name of Bhudar Goswami's son, what would it be? Premadhar, Paramesh, let's assume it is Paramesh Goswami. That isn't bad. What's he saying? Okay, so who can it be? From the information that he had collected from the salesman, that man must be none other than the eldest son of Budhar Goswami. And the narrator thought of a name also, Paramesh Goswami. Okay, what was he saying? He was saying something. A khaddar kurta clad elderly gentleman was his audience, seated in front of him. Who was this man? Professor was saying. I really heard voices emanating from somewhere. See, everything was imagination, but he could hear voices also. And that man, the professor, seemed to be talking to someone. And who was before him in that room in Bina Kutir? There was a khaddar kutta. He was wearing a kutta, and that fabric was khaddar. He was a gentleman who was his audience, and he was sitting in front of this professor. And the professor was saying uh, gently, "So, Ganeshta." Ganeshta was that man who was listening to the professor. Please don't mind. A scholarly atmosphere is part of this house. If I allow iron rods, metal, cement, sand with money matters being paramount herein, my father's soul would never be in peace. He would never forgive me. You have known us from our childhood. Your contractual engagements have grown over the years. Would I have not been happy if the house became yours? Tell me. So that professor seemed to be telling something about that house itself to that man Ganeshta. That see, iron rod, cement, these things are not important. Okay, money is not important. In this house I need peace. If there is peace, my father's soul will also get peace in heaven. Okay, he would, if I sell this house, if I make it something else, my father's soul will never get peace and he will never forgive me. Okay, and you know us, no, from our childhood. Is the professor's son was telling that person Ganeshta that you know our family from our childhood, you have seen us grow from our childhood. And would I not be happy if this house becomes yours? Tell me. But now the preservation of the memory of father's lifelong work is my responsibility, a filial duty. And even if I do not reside here, I must maintain the atmosphere of this place. As far as I can, if possible, I would like to build a library here in father's name. You too have looked up to him with respect, and you have seen him on this table, his hand directed towards it. And like a cinematic close up shot, the entire table filled up with screen, numerous papers, magazines, manuscripts, a file cover tied with red string which bore the letters, the spiritual element. Of relationships in the Vedic age, okay? Ink pot, pen, and the gun bottle, blotter, betel nut bearing bota, spectacle cover, okay? So that professor's son was telling Ganeshta, see, I don't want to do anything else to this house. Let it remain as such. You take care. I just want to build up a library here in my father's name. And you have always respected my father. You have been seen us from our childhood. And then see, you have always seen my father working there in that table. And immediately, like a close up shot in films, immediately for the narrator, the table came like a close up shot to him, and he could see the table very vividly with all these things on top, manuscripts, file, okay, as then a file cover with a red string with the letters, the spiritual element relationship of the Vedic age, inkpot, everything could become clear in front of the narrator's eyes. Father spent his entire time well into this old age, days and nights in study, forgetting his meals. So many a day you have yourself found him immersed in his work, and well sounding cough was required to rouse him. This dedication, this commitment that had nothing to do with economic gain, nor without any yearning for name or fame, this pursuit of gyan, a disinterested quest for knowledge, this sense of incompleteness that you see everywhere, articles half written, which I now hope to publish if possible. Would it be fair for me to let this atmosphere submit to the lure of commercialization? You tell me, Ganeshta. So that in very substantial words that professor was speaking to Ganeshta and telling that, don't you remember my father? He was such a humble and simple person. His only motto was to study to acquire gain, and he was never up after material benefits. He did not study for economic gain. He did not have any lust for money. Everything he did in a disinterested manner. He used to be so immersed in his studies, in acquiring gain, reading books, that nothing could, he even forgot to take his dinner, lunch, his meals, and one had to cough loudly. Then only he came back to his senses. So, but everything here in this, but we see here that there is an air of incompleteness. There were many articles which were half written, not published. So the professor is telling, if possible, I will complete them and I will publish it. But I cannot let this place, Bina Kutir, this place to be sold, and I cannot let an RCC building coming in place of this Bina Kutir. Okay, I cannot let this atmosphere submit to the lure of commercialization, which means attraction of commercialization. Everywhere there is commercialization, people are dismantling their old houses, beginnings, and in place of them, they are building tall RCC buildings where they can extract lot of material benefit. But I cannot allow my old house to become like that. Okay, otherwise my father will not forgive me. Ganeshda, you tell me. I do not need the house to live in. True, it is my property. I can earn from it now. That's right. But just for that, should I let it all signs of my father's scholarship? But just for that, should I let all signs of my father's scholarship? Dot dot dot. Is telling that now I am the rightful owner of this place. This is my property. I can earn from it if I renovate it, give it on rent, and if I build something else here. But no, I cannot do that. Okay, I cannot let it be done. I have to. I have to respect what my father was, and I have to retain the memories here. Okay, I cannot destroy the atmosphere of this place. Okay, he said like this to whom? Ganesha. And all this, remember, students, are part of imagination of whom? The narrator. Understood? This character, the girl, they really were, but what they are doing at present that we have read, these are all the part of the narrator's imagination while he was drinking the second last part of the second bottle of Coca-Cola.